good evening to you. Today has been a busy day. We have a lot lined up for you. Here is what you can expect. Tonight, the lethal COVID-19 wave.
I must admit we have been stretched in terms of capacity.
Hospitals are struggling. Many ICU wards are full and barely any space in COVID-19 wards.
Hospitali tukatafuta nyingi sana. Kwa government isikakosa kabisa. Private ikawa too expensive.
Embu journalist suffers the brunt of a broken system and had to cross counties for treatment.
Huku Embu hakuna ICU. Hakuna ICU za mtu wa COVID. Kuna hata kitanda moja ya ICU ya tu ya COVID.
Also tonight, tributes of praise flow following the demise of Kericho Deputy Governor Susan Kikwai.
The Deputy Governor tested of COVID, and it is the disease which took toll on her this morning.
And mourning President John Pombe Magufuli. A requiem mass, then the masses in Dar es Salaam viewed his remains. Kenya joins in the grief as her neighbor mourns.
Rais Suluhu Hassan, mwambie tunamwombea.
Plus, the pandemic limited tourism from getting to the skies.
We are living by the day. We don't know what will happen tomorrow.
Losses in revenue, livelihoods, and hope.
Moja tu kaambiwa ghafla hoteli imefungwa mpaka siku haijulikani.
But that's not the end of the story.
We, the industry, need to transform.
Tourism Detour, tonight's special feature.
This is Weekend Edition with Olive Burrows.
With me tonight is David Agondoa. She was hardworking, focused, inspirational and deliberate in uplifting women, especially those in low-income areas. Those are just some of the tributes that have poured in for the now late Deputy Governor of Kericho County, Susan Kikwai. She passed on this morning after a battle with COVID-19. And as Bridget Ngana, who was in Kericho County, tells us, the Deputy Governor was diabetic and had battled the coronavirus for 2 weeks. But before we get to that report by Bridget, let's take a look at some of those other tributes that have poured in for the late Deputy Governor. President Uhuru Kenyatta being the first in line, and he says that she was instrumental as when she was the managing director of the Kenya Investments Company, and he says she was deeply committed to the well-being and progress of the Kenyan nation. He added that Susan was a great public servant who, while working for the national government, was instrumental in attracting various domestic, regional and international investments. Deputy President William Ruto, on his part, said Kenya has lost yet again another progressive and consummate leader in Susan Kikwai, who he added was a bold and firm leader and inspired and elevated the presence and voices of women in our politics. The chair of the Council of Governors, Martin Wambora, said Kikwai will be remembered as a visionary leader who championed for political inclusion and the participation of women. He adds that she was a vocal person in the Council of Governors Transformative Women Leadership Program, Focal and Vocal. Nyeri Deputy Governor Carol Karugu, who is also the chair of the Deputy Governors Forum, says Susan has been a great champion of gender equality in her county. Her outstanding performance and commitment has gained her great respect in her county and beyond. Karugu said she has lost a friend, a confidant and a wonderful colleague. We will be getting to Bridget Ngana's report in a little bit. But COVID-19 has claimed many lives, and tonight the COVID positivity rate holds steady at a high of 17.5%. The Ministry of Health has reported 1,274 new infections out of 7,240 samples tested. This brings the total number of COVID infections recorded in the country to 120,160. 163. Of those infected, 845 are admitted to health facilities across the country, with 123 of them in ICU. Another 2,405 are receiving home-based care. The Ministry of Health has also added 12 to the number of those who've died from the virus, bringing the COVID death toll up to 1,994. Fortunately, 120 are reported to have recovered from the virus in the last day, bringing the total number of recoveries up to 89,508. The reality of the rising wave, whose bitter fruit is more infectious and deaths, seems to be hitting home for some who are dismissing the disease. Sadly, not all are on board this safety flight, but the situation is dire. Hospitals are bending over backwards and their spines are unable to hold. Various doctors and hospitals are confirming that intensive care units are full, with many in need of facilities yet facilities yet to secure space. COVID-19 isolation wards are also hard to come by, but the patient numbers are rising daily and hospitals are feeling the strain daily. Seth Olale lifts the veil over why you need to be alive to the horrid and morbid reality of the most lethal COVID wave Kenya has experienced.
Another frontline soldier has fallen while in the battlefield. Dr. Kenneth Mutuma, who was a doctor at Mbagathi County Hospital, succumbed to COVID-19, and the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Union has celebrated him as a diligent and inspirational doctor. This comes just after the country registered its highest number of fatalities in a day, 28 deaths in 24 hours. Kericho Deputy Governor Susan Kikwai has also lost the battle, coming after a host of other Kenyans, including public figures, either getting infected or dying. ODM leader Raila Odinga, Meru Governor Keraito Murungi are among the leaders who have publicly declared that they are COVID positive, and these are not the only leaders who are battling the illness.
We have governors in hospital, we have senators in hospital, we have members of parliament in hospital, we have young people, we have old, we have poor people, we have rich. This thing I bakui.
Some medics have taken to social media platforms to warn Kenyans to be vigilant, saying that some people are failing to get the treatment they need as hospitals are full. They claim getting an ICU bed is a chance affair and COVID-19 wards have no available space. If you get the disease and can't even afford a private hospital, you may not get the space. It is not a guarantee. Medics are also pointing out that many of the new patients have underlying conditions and are also going in while in critical condition.
We are a bit stretched. That I must admit we have been stretched in terms of capacity. And this is the exact reason why we didn't want to be able to get to a situation where we had the surge which we're experiencing at the moment. According
to the Ministry of Health data, 3,250 people in the country are still battling the virus, just at different stages. Further, the number of patients in critical condition has significantly increased in the past few weeks, with 123 patients under intensive care. So dire is the situation that political leaders who are leading the way in breaching the rules and exposing wananchi to the killer disease are now speaking in a different tone.
Be very, very, very careful with the second wave. It is real. We must not lower the guard.
Let us be strict in the adherence of these COVID protocols. Like you have seen, this wave that we are currently in as a country appears to be perhaps more lethal. Third wave is back. It is lethal. Let us continue to observe regulations and protocol issued by Ministry of Health.
Various public spaces are still spotting wananchi going about their daily business without regard for the containment measures, even as the third wave swallows more. The Ministry of Health said it is considering returning the stringent measures such as lockdowns in counties in light of the rise in infections and deaths. Seth Olale, NTV.
So, just how keen are Wananchi in adhering to the laid-down protocols seeking to contain COVID-19? Lois Wangui attended a burial ceremony in the county of Elgeyo Marakwet and made the following observations on how irresponsible some Kenyans are, with some willing to put their own lives and those of others at risk because they know people.
The time to lay to rest the late Wilson Yego, who was the principal of St. Joseph's Secondary School, Kitale. The burial was in Kipkundul, Elgeyo Marakwet County. Hundreds made their way here, ready to flout the COVID-19 containment rules. The police created a barricade to manage the numbers to the legally stipulated maximum of 100 persons.
There would have been a better way of making to control the crowd, so that we also say pole to the mama, to the family and everybody else. Now we are sitting here just like...
Here, many were stopped upon arrival, some left, while others spent their afternoon speculating from nearby fields and on the road.
Yes, I'm very disappointed because as a young person, I wanted to sit down and listen. Key things that this person achieved because I want to become an achiever. But
the desire to act with impunity was persistent. We spotted this nominated MCA trying to negotiate her way past the police barrier.
Tunaelewa ni kweli COVID iko, lakini kungekuwa na njia nyingine mzuri ya kufanya hii mazishi ya huyu mzee sababu ni mtu muhitajika kwa hii nchi.
Then came those who wanted to bully their way in because they know mkubwa or mheshimiwa. Those inside the venue wore their masks and observed social distancing requirements.
Tunajua kweli leo tumelemewa na askari pale, lakini sio kwa ubaya pia. Tunajua ugonjwa itatoka siku moja, lakini isitoke na watu wetu wengi.
The running message, COVID-19 is real and can be really brutal. Lois Wangui, NTV, in the county of Elgeyo Marakwet.
On that note, I think we could all use a break. We'll be back shortly.
What does it take to move a nation? It starts with a dream. A dream which gains momentum and becomes bigger and better and more audacious. What does it take to move a nation? It takes the commitment to innovate and invest in breakthrough technology, to build partnerships across the continent, to create connections, to enable businesses to make their dreams a reality. What does it take to move a nation? It takes Sendy.
For a better tomorrow, don't forget to do the 1, 2, 3 with Colgate every night.
Smile through your day with a fresh breath and strong teeth.
This looks different.
It is. See for yourself.
Okay, so it's a photo.
Look closer. Photos within photos.
What about video?
8K video. Beyond cinema quality.
So...
you can pull portrait quality photos straight from video.
But will it last the whole trip?
Battery for the whole trip and the way back.
This is different.
Told you.
What's your beautiful?
My essence and my energy. My natural glow and my confidence.
My beautiful is being me.
Reveal your beautiful this beauty month with amazing discounts of up to 30% off 400 ml Nivea body lotions in participating stores near you. Enjoy discounts galore with Nivea. Be you, be beautiful.
Karibuni sana Lotto. This is the money hour. Jina langu ni Beverly Nita. Kumbuka unachezea jackpot ya 25 million Kenya shillings.
Jina langu ni Mike Makori. Hapa kukukumbusha 25 million Kenya shillings could be yours if you match your 6 lucky numbers to enter the mega jackpot draw.
All you have to do is play any amount from 50 shillings to 1,000 Kenya shillings, known as a jishindia, yani ile juu jackpot ya 25 million Kenya shillings.
Kumbuka pia thousands of other cash prizes are up for grabs in the second chance lucky draw. Kucheza ni rahisi.
All you have to do is weke between 50 bob to 1,000 Kenya shillings, pay bill number 77700, alafu tunakuambia
kila laheri.
This week on Property Focus, how do you make your house more secure? We've got the experts on this and more.
Security to a higher extent is a personal responsibility.
Ownership will dictate threats. The type of people who stay in that address will also dictate threats.
And the security equipment to beef up the security in your home.
Digital system is good. Whoever wants to invest, let him invest in a digital system.
Catch the show this Sunday at 5:30 p.m. only on NTV.
Buy a value-added plot of land at the Garden of Joy off Kangundo Road, deposit 700,000 and get 16K and your Istanbuzi is sorted. Call us on 0790 300 300.
Thank you for staying with us on NTV Weekend Edition. Back to our top story. And hardworking, focused, inspirational and deliberate in uplifting women, especially those from low-income areas. Those are just some of the tributes that have poured in for the now late Deputy Governor of Kericho County, Susan Kikwai. She passed on this morning after a battle with COVID-19. Bridget Ngana's report on how the Deputy Governor was diabetic and had battled the coronavirus disease for 2 weeks is now ready.
Shortly after 9 o'clock Saturday morning, Susan Kikwai, Kericho's first female and second-term deputy governor, breathed her last at this private hospital.
I have to say without fear of contradiction that our deputy governor tested of COVID, and it is the disease which took toll on her this morning.
The deputy governor had been admitted to the intensive care unit where she lost the battle. Her leadership has been a key point of appreciation by those who eulogized her.
I send my deepest condolences to the family, friends, relatives and the people of Kericho. I feel deeply saddened at this sudden death.
Susan alikuwa mama shupavu na kiongozi shupavu pia, kwa sababu alikuwa anapenda kuona kwamba zile vikundi za kina mama zimeimarishwa. Yeye ndiye alikuja na ile bill ilikuwa inaitwa Kericho County Cooperative Bill. Ili ilikuwa inalenga kusaidia akina mama wenye wako mashinani.
She was celebrated both at work and at home in Tugunon, where there was not much activity as workers went on with their chores. But they said their boss's demise hit them hard.
Hata niko na usuni na nasema ni pole kwa maneno yenye ametupata. Hii maneno imetupata karibu saa 7 hivi tukiwa kazini, na nasema ya kwamba Mungu amsaidie, amlase mahali pema peponi.
Hata saa hii tuko na usuni mingi, kwa maana tulisikia leo hata siku agonjeka hata siku sikia, lakini tulisikia tu amekwenda.
Beyond the home front, the deputy governor had many feathers to her cap. She is credited with stimulating entrepreneurship and promoting the country as an investment hub. More to that, those who knew her say she had a passion for uplifting women, especially those in rural areas. Kikwai served on various high-level platforms, including the Vision 2030 Delivery Board, the Export Promotion Council, and the Common Market for Eastern and Southern Africa, COMESA. She was previously the managing director of the Kenya Investment Authority for 7 years, before joining politics as Paul Chepkwony's running mate in the 2013 election. The death of Kericho Deputy Governor Susan Kikwai earlier on this morning comes at a time when this county and the entire Rift Valley region is crumbling under the weight of the third wave of COVID-19 infections. Leaders continue to urge residents to adhere to the Ministry of Health guidelines on COVID-19 prevention. Bridget Ngana, NTV, Kericho County.
Thank you, Bridget. And the coronavirus has not only claimed lives, it's claimed livelihoods. When the outbreak of the coronavirus disease was reported in the country, its effects triggered shockwaves in various sectors. One of them is tourism. The pandemic served the sector a huge, near-fatal blow, propelling it into the critical care unit. Jobs were lost, livelihoods were thrown off, and businesses were shut. These losses in revenue were unprecedented. The sector was thrown off course and now needs to chart a new route. Kevin Mutai navigates us into the painful reality of the tourism detour from the planned course and how the sector still needs to further change course.
The tourism sector is one of the largest industries in the world. In Kenya, tourism rakes in about 163 billion shillings in earnings, making it the third largest foreign exchange earner behind the export of tea and horticulture. But in March 2020, things took a turn for the worst when the outbreak of the coronavirus pandemic shook the tourism sector, bringing it to its knees.
The tourism industry basically died, and with the closing of airspaces and the lockdown of different continents and countries around the world, it meant that tourism as an industry went on hold.
In a nutshell, where are we today? To be honest with you, looking at you in the eye, we are living by the day. You don't know what will happen tomorrow.
This industry has been severely affected by COVID-19, especially here in Mombasa, where the county was among the two major hotspots in the country in terms of the pandemic. You remember at the beginning, at the advent of the pandemic, the hotel industry particularly was significantly affected, and some were actually forced to close down, and others had to literally downscale their operations.
The Coast region stands out for its diverse products in the tourism sector, comprising of beach destinations and safaris in both Savo East and Savo West game reserves. These are the mainstay of the region's economy. But when the pandemic struck, many hotels in the region took a direct hit. They are on the verge of collapsing. Due to financial constraints, hundreds of people have also lost their jobs in the country. According to the United Nations World Tourism Organization, as many as 100 million direct tourism jobs are at risk. The industries associated with the sector, such as food services, which provides employment for over 100 million workers worldwide, are also vulnerable. Here in Kenya, according to data from the Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife, 2.5 million people who were in employment in the sector by 2019, 80% of them have now been affected by coronavirus.
Mwezi wa 3 mwaka jana tulipoteza kazi kuhusu hiyo COVID-19 kwa sababu hata ni situation hatukuwa tunajua. Kuingia kama siku moja tu kaambiwa ghafla hoteli imefungwa mpaka siku haijulikani kufuatana na hii mambo ya COVID-19. Sasa bila malipo, tulienda bila malipo yoyote. Mtu una watoto wako shule, unataka kulipa school fees kwa pesa yenye utapata, bila hata upate hiyo changamoto za kulipa nyumba, kujisaidia kula, ikawa ni tabu sasa.
Agneta used to work as a cleaner and a room attendant at a hotel in Mombasa, and she says that all her colleagues were sent home when the management decided to shut down the facility.
Statistics wise, we have close to about 3,750 members that we lost jobs in Mombasa. I'm talking about direct linked to us. We are not talking about other sectors, other areas that are dependent to tourism. We are talking about our members. Those are our members that we've lost. And we also have a number of employees on unpaid leaves. We also still have a number of employees on rotation basis, working on rotation shifts, like a 14-day rotation or 1-month rotation. Then you leave a job, somebody else comes, takes over. We also have a number of employees on pay cuts.
The effect of COVID-19 crisis also crippled the international market. WTO says international tourism is expected to decline drastically. According to the World Tourism Barometer, international tourist arrivals fell by 72% between January and October 2020, precipitated by COVID-19 restrictions. The decline represents over 900 million fewer international tourist arrivals worldwide compared to the same period in 2019, and translates to a loss of more than $935 billion in export revenues.
Bila kazi ni kugumu sana kwa mtu ambao yani unatafuta leo ndio upate vile utapeleka maisha yako, ni vigumu sana. Nikipata kufulia mtu nguo na fanya, kupata hata kwenda kazi za vibandani huku kusaidia watu, hiyo ndio kazi nafanya sasa hivi.
Utalii ni mbaya kwa sababu ya corona. Haieleweki kabisa kwa sababu kazi yenye ilikuwa mbeleni sio kama saa haieleweki kabisa. Sasa hii corona bana imetuharibia mambo mengi, shughuli mengi kwa kazi.
This is where I urge the government and His Excellency and Honorable Najib Balala. This is the time where we need to sit, the government and the policy makers need to sit with the stakeholders within the country, so that we can sit and brainstorm together in terms of what needs to be done to be able to pick up international business tourism. There's the regional tourism, and then there's the local tourism.
We know government is trying to get a foolproof system so that all the monies that are paid comes to the government. But don't make the system so difficult that you actually lose the bigger picture and our clients end up missing out coming to Kenya. What happens is that they'll simply avoid us and they'll go to other destinations. So on the visa aspect, we can make it easier. We still support and we want, and we are the ones who push for e-visa. But we must get a platform that is working. Currently, it is 50% you can say, and sometimes it's not working, and that becomes a big challenge. Now, what we are saying is, if you have paid for it, please just allow the person to board. Stop stopping them at the source, because when you do that, you are really disrupting somebody's travel, and yet they've made the effort actually to apply online. They even paid for it.
In reality, people will not want to be away on holiday, say for 2 or 3 weeks, and then come back and have to quarantine for another 2 weeks. People don't necessarily have that luxury, and yet unless they're in their later years and are probably self-employed or retired, and therefore then that makes sense. So those are some of the things that we need to sort of negotiate as countries, as partners, to be able to say that if we are to really get into an understanding of how we revive the industry, these are some of the aspects that we need to put in place in terms of considering what concessions can we have.
The pandemic is with us and it's real. Still, countries have locked down, some of them, and you've seen how Europe has happened. Also, the conditionality of having a PCR and the issues of quarantine, that is also making travel not to happen as much as should be. Despite since August we have opened our airspace, but there is fear from the travelers, and also they prefer to travel locally. As you can see that even in Kenya, people are traveling just within the country. They're not traveling overseas because, again, the dangers and the fear factor. But yes, I'm optimistic. The vaccine has brought hope, but it will take time till it's covered the whole world.
The Kenya Tourism Federation reveals that there are negotiations going on between stakeholders in the sector to rally the government to issue charter incentives so as to attract low-cost carriers to bring visitors to the coastal region. Some of the potential markets being looked at now include Poland, Bulgaria, Romania, Ukraine, and even Russia.
Mombasa, unfortunately, still has a bit of protected skies where we have our national carrier, where we are not allowing others, to fly in freely with the higher, freedom rights to come to Mombasa. I'll give you a simple example. Rwanda Airlines, for instance, would like to fly Kigali, Mombasa, Mumbai, and then Mumbai, Mombasa, Kigali, the way they used to do Kigali, Mombasa, Dubai. But our government will certainly not allow that. But again, we are asking ourselves, if you are not serving that route, why will you deny somebody else to serve that route, and in the process help us to fill our beds? Because there's no quarrel with success at the end of the day. It really doesn't matter who brought the numbers here. When you look around, the number of beds or rooms we're looking at, we're not looking at anything less than 40,000 beds.
Local tourism was at its best during the December holidays, as most of the hotels in the region recorded good numbers. The Ministry of Health, however, put in place COVID-19 restrictions in hotels and restaurants that saw a restricted number of guests occupying the facilities.
Before the president's speech on lockdown, our focus was very low. But after the president gave a leeway for families to travel, but again observe COVID protocols, then our bookings started triggering in.
The international tourism has been negligible because obviously with the various problems of quarantining on return, people are not that keen to travel. We're seeing more and more Kenya tourists coming to the coast. Our difficulty at the moment is they don't like to come to a place where they can only drink in their rooms, but we're battling that at the moment, and let's hope once we've, as we prove that we've got all our protocols in place and followed the Ministry of Health guidelines, that we are more than responsible for our plants and we can start serving drinks and get back to the situation as normal.
Since the international tourists stopped coming, we are receiving many locals.
The tour companies are giving a good rate. This is the opportunity for Kenyans to come out and enjoy Kenya. I know COVID has been hard on people, but we have been here one full day, received extreme rest, been able to experience Kenya at its best. The animals seem to have rested since we have been in COVID, and they are out everywhere. We recommend Kenya's local tourists come out, come and see what is out here.
We are one of the luckiest people.
Kenya is a destination which has got a very wide species of birds. Over 400 can be spotted in places like Baringo, in places like Naivasha, name it. You will see so many types of bird species, and that is one thing that can easily attract some of these visitors. But having said that, there are many other things that we can do differently. When we look at the African market, what will attract a Nigerian to come to Kenya may not be wildlife. They are more interested with nightlife, good restaurants, good experience, shopping. And let's face it, in a place like Nairobi, we have got fairly decent shopping standards. So there's no reason why Nairobi cannot attract some of the neighboring countries instead of them going to Dubai and the rest of the places. But we just need to make sure also that the prices that prevail in some of our stores are reasonable, because sometimes we want to make a killing and we assume that some of these guys are completely market ignorant. These are people who travel. They know the prices of this thing, whether it is in London, whether it is in Dubai. So don't try to be too smart, because these people have worked for their money and they know how to spend it.
At the Masai Mara Game Reserve, all is not well. Families which depend on the establishment are reeling from the pangs of COVID-19. The Ministry of Tourism estimates that in 2020, about 2 million tourists visited Kenya, some of whom went straight to the Mara to experience the spectacle 8th wonder of the world. But when restriction on movements was escalated by government, the Masai Mara remained deserted. The county government of Narok lost over 2 billion shillings in revenue. The Kenya Wildlife Service also lost over 500 million shillings of collections from game park fees during the same period.
The COVID testing, the PCR testing, doesn't look like it's going to stop anytime soon. So for now, if you have international guests who are coming into the country, the validity of the PCR tests needs to be extended from 3 days to at least 4 to 5 days. Because, for example, you have guests who are coming from as far as the United States. If in case of any delayed flights or long transit periods, their PCR tests are no longer valid.
It will be a different type of tourism after COVID-19. It's post-COVID. What will happen? The client will change in terms of behavioral and demand. Yeah, And definitely we, the industry, need to transform, because it's about health as number one. Number two is about technology. It's about experience. And the product must be what the new clientele has. I've said today that the clientele of 2021 would not be the same clientele desires of 2019.
When the government relaxed COVID-19 protocols and opened the airspace in August 2020, it signified a new dawn for the industry after receiving a boost from the domestic market.
The humpback migration comes through across the coast of East Africa every year in July, August and September, which is one of the low seasons here. It's actually winter on the coast, and it's not normally a very busy time. But because of the whales offering something that's completely unique and very unusual, we've got guests coming here and providing an income to the local market and to the local people at a time when we wouldn't normally be busy. So it's a really wonderful, new and unique draw to bring people to an area at a normally quiet time.
When you see it, you see how huge this animal is, because it's 40 tons, and the baby, just a newly born baby, is 1 ton. So you could imagine the size.
We're seeing two different types of markets. So we're seeing the traditional domestic market sector that want a beach holiday over Christmas, right? So they want to take their families and take them to Mombasa. Then we're seeing another audience, a much younger audience that is embracing safari. So they were the first to go and visit the migration to make sure that they had booked an opportunity to see the migration whilst it was there. Then we've got a completely new group of people who are like adventure seekers. So now we've begun to see groups, smaller groups of travelers coming together to explore experiences that people haven't hitherto considered something that they can do. So we're seeing a lot of people wanting to go to northern Kenya. They do road trips to northern Kenya, and they're opening up that circuit and discovering it and actually putting it to the fore as they share that content with their friends. So we're finding there's that sector. Then there's people who are saying, okay, I've never gone to the lake region. I want to go to the lake region. And they're discovering different things there. When you go to the lake region, you discover heritage, you discover nightlife, you discover the culture in that area, you discover gastronomy, because people are beginning to see different counties, so to speak, or different areas for offering different things. We then have the North Rift, and in the North Rift, there's very many things that are coming up.
To cushion the industry players from financial losses, the government introduced a stimulus package to provide soft loans for the refurbishment of the tourism facilities through the Tourism Finance Corporation. 1 billion shillings was set aside for 5,500 wildlife scouts under the Kenya Wildlife Service and another 1 billion shillings for conservancies in the country.
In addition to this, funding will also be set aside to support the operations of our premier hospitality institution, which is Utalii College, to guarantee the steady supply of well-trained hospitality professionals.
The coast region had a lot of challenges, and a lot of the applications had a lot of missing documents and the rest, and also a lot of disqualifications.
The United Nations World Tourism Organization Confidence Index on recovery remains at record lows. Most of the experts expect an uptick in the international tourism by 2022 or even beyond.
Recovery, even by world standards, they are talking about 2022, 2023. And then we have our own special case in Kenya, which is elections. Already we are in a very serious electioneering mood with the referendum talk and many other things. So basically it means excess baggage for us. You know, it's like you're running and you've got some 10 kilos of COVID on you, then there's another 10 kilos of visa challenges, then somebody brings some 20 kilos of referendum on you, then there is another 20. You become heavier as you know, as you move. Other destinations don't have those challenges.
Tourism stakeholders need to actually come together and basically re-engineer all the products that we are currently offering, especially to the local tourists, in the sense that now we may need to come up with specific or special packages that will actually attract the domestic market to explore the different tourist destinations we have in the country. And it's not rocket science, it's basically the rule of demand. The minute you lower the prices, you make them affordable.
The experts also blame travel restrictions as the main hindrance for the recovery of the international tourism, at the same time expressing optimism that the domestic market in many countries will recover faster. The rollout of COVID-19 vaccines is expected to normalize travel in 2021, which might slightly return the international travel, especially from the worst hit areas such as Europe. So, what lies ahead for Kenya's tourism sector in the new norm? With 63% of international arrivals being attributed to leisure purposes, Kenya still has its work cut out if it is so to pivot itself as a hub for meetings, incentives, conferences and exhibition. How will domestic market repackage itself for long-term viability from a price point perspective if it is to provide a balancing wheel for the international tourism? The impact of COVID-19 on tourism places further pressure on heritage conservation as well as on the cultural and social fabric of many communities across the country. According to WTO, 90% of museums have closed and 13% may never reopen thanks to COVID-19. Players in the industry are hopeful that the government will heed to their call by ensuring a sober implementation of policies and strategies that will lead to a speedy recovery of the industry. Kevin Mutai, NTV in Mombasa.
The tourism detour, plenty of food for thought there. Let's take a break.
Welcome to our new office. Wonderful sight. Just imagine 1, 2, 3, 4. This is where the parking is, and then the warehouse front door here, the reception here, and the fridges here, the lorry's entrance there, and their exit there. One way only. What is it?
So where is the building?
Fast, stress-free construction. Get your factory-made buildings in 10 weeks with SAFBuild. Order yours now. SAFBuild, a quality building solution from MRM.
Beat sensitivity pain fast with Sensodyne Rapid Action for clinically proven relief in 60 seconds.
There you go. Okay, thank you.
Hi there. Selena, it's great seeing you getting so much value for your money.
Well, it's important to save as much as you can.
You save everywhere. Except for here. This is where you're throwing money down the drain.
How?
On these cleaning products.
Impossible.
Harpic 10X. While other cleaners flow away, Harpic 10X's viscous formula in only one round of application gives you sparkling, clean toilet. Harpic, 10 times better cleaning than other cleaning products.
And great savings too.
Oh, I've tried. Hi, Mama. From your first day at school to you captaining your soccer team, no matter how old you are, you'll always be my baby. That's why I trust Dettol to clean, protect, and keep you refreshed every day. I still can't believe how quickly you've grown. Dettol, tested effective against COVID-19.
Karibuni sana Lotto. This is the money hour. Jina langu ni Beverly Nita. Kumbuka unachezea jackpot ya 25 million Kenya shillings.
Jina langu ni Mike Makori. Hapa kukukumbusha 25 million Kenya shillings could be yours if you match your 6 lucky numbers to enter the mega jackpot draw.
All you have to do is play any amount from 50 shillings to 1,000 Kenya shillings, known as a jishindia, yani ile juu jackpot ya 25 million Kenya shillings.
Kumbuka pia thousands of other cash prizes are up for grabs in the second chance lucky draw. Kucheza ni rahisi.
All you have to do is weke between 50 bob to 1,000 Kenya shillings, pay bill number 77700, alafu tunakuambia
kila laheri.
Time to play on NTV Sport, and South Africa's Justin Harding will go into the 4th round and final round of the magical Kenya Open, top of the leaderboard after a 3rd round 64 at the Par 71 Current Country Club course, which gave him a 2-short lead. Now Harding, who started the day tied in 3rd with 3 other players, has become a regular player at the magical Kenya Open over the years and is definitely hoping that 2021 will be his year. Harding is followed by Australian Scott Hand, who is tied for 2nd place with American Johannes Veerman, who produced a magnificent bogey pre-round of 9 under par 62, so far the lowest in the tournament, to join his compatriot Kat Kitayama on 3 rounds, total of 14 under par 199. It wasn't a good day for Samuel Njoroge, the only surviving Kenyan in the tournament, as he shot 3 over par 74 for a total of 1 over 214, though he still has a good chance of moving up. The 3rd day of action saw Sports Cabinet Secretary Amina Mohammed grace the event, which is being played behind closed doors.
To be fair, solid from pretty much 1 to 12, and then had a bit of a hiccup on 13 and ultimately just kind of survived my way in. Yeah, pleased, giving myself a great opportunity to have a chance tomorrow and see if we can get over the line.
Definitely that culmination tomorrow. Football now, and Tusker FC came from 2 goals down to salvage a point in the Football Kenya Federation Premier League, drawing 2-2 with Nairobi City Stars at the Utalii grounds in a day of stalemate results. Kimani Wanjohi scored a brace in the first half to put a possible victory well within City Stars' hands, but the Brewers responded 6 minutes into the second half with Kevin Monyi finding the net before Chris Onyango equalized. Tusker remained top while City Stars are 8th. Meanwhile, Wazito and Bandari also drew 2-2, with William Wadri adding to his impressive tally so far with the game's opener converting a penalty just at the break. Michael Lowino and Kevin Kimani then netted inside of 5 second-half minutes to put Wazito ahead before Mosha drew level in the 79th. In the day's other result, Vihiga and AFC Leopards drew 0-0. Well, 2nd place KCB, who have 2 games in hand, by the way, have a chance to close the gap when they take on Zuke on Sunday. In other fixtures, Kakamega Homeboys host Sofapaka and Nzoia clash with Ulinzi. And KCB bagged their 3rd consecutive Kenya Cup victory, beating Kenyatta University's Black Blood 32-19 in the early kickoff at the KCB Sports Club in Ruaraka. They scored 4 tries, 3 conversions and 2 penalties to secure their bonus point win, while Black Blood landed 3 tries with 2 being converted successfully. Meanwhile, 14-man Kabras crashed Kenya Harlequins 43-2 at the RFUEA grounds. Derek Ashiundu was shown a red card early in the first half, but Kabras went on to dominate the game, winning on a bonus. It's still early days, but Kabras and KCB are the only teams on the log with a 100% win record, having won all 3 matches so far. In the day's other match, MMU beat Mwamba 12-6, 2 matches, Nondis versus Strathmore Lears and Menengai Oilers versus Impala Saracens were moved to a later date after players tested positive for COVID-19. Great. We are keeping it local, and the Kenya national women's team outclassed Uganda ladies 6-0 in an Africa Cup of Nations test match played at the SICK Union Hockey Grounds in Nairobi. This was Kenya's second consecutive win after it thrashed Uganda 11-0 in the first match played at the same grounds on Thursday. In the men's category, Kenya lost 1-0 to Uganda. The men had earlier registered a 1-1 draw against the opponents, failing to win against their rival neighbors for the first time in over 2 decades. Africa Hockey Federation and the International Hockey Federation organized the test matches after the cancellation of the Northeastern Region Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers. Great. To the NBA, and don't forget you can catch LA Lakers taking on Atlanta Hawks after jam down tonight. Let's look at the latest action though with the Portland